My grandfather had one rule when it came to equipment. He said, if the machine respects the man running it, buy it. If it doesn't, walk away. For 40 years, John Deere passed that test every single time. I am not sure it still does. And that is not something I say lightly. This is a brand that built itself on the backs of American farmers, a brand that became part of the identity of rural life across the US and UK in a way that almost no other company in any industry has ever managed. You did not just buy a John Deere. You trusted one. There's a difference, a significant one. So what changed? That is the only question worth asking here. John Deere was founded in 1837 by a blacksmith named John Deere in Grand Detour, Illinois. He was not trying to build an empire. He watched farmers struggling with cast-iron plows that clogged constantly in thick Midwest prairie soil. He shaped a steel saw blade into a self-scouring plow that let farmers keep moving without stopping every few feet to clean the blade by hand. That was it. A real problem, a practical solution, built by someone who understood what the work actually cost. That founding instinct is what farmers bought into for generations. The machines were built like the people who made them understood what a lost day meant, what a broken season meant, what it cost a farming family to have equipment sitting idle when the weather window was closing. Dealers knew your name, parts were accessible, the relationship felt like it ran both ways. A company does not walk away from that kind of reputation by accident. It makes a deliberate set of choices over time, and those choices, when you line them up, tell a very clear story. The first thing worth understanding is what John Deere Financial has become inside that company. The financing arm is now one of the most profitable divisions in the entire business. Not the tractors, not the combines, the division that lends money to the farmers buying the equipment. When the financial services side of a manufacturing company becomes as central as the product itself, the customer relationship changes. It stops being about building the best machine. It starts being about maximizing the value extracted from the customer relationship over time. That shift is quiet. Farmers felt it before they could name it. The louder shift was software. Modern John Deere equipment runs on software the way your phone runs on an operating system. And John Deere decided that software belonged to them, not to the farmer who paid full price for the machine, not to the independent mechanic who had been fixing equipment in that county for 30 years, to John Deere and their authorized dealer network exclusively. Here is what that looks like in real life. You're in the middle of harvest. 2 dry days ahead, first good window in weeks. Your combine throws a fault code and stops. You call your dealer. Earliest they can get someone out is tomorrow afternoon. The fault code could be cleared in 20 minutes with a laptop and the right access, but you do not have access. Your local mechanic does not have access. Only the dealer does, and the dealer is 3 hours away. That is not a hypothetical. That happened to farmers across America and across the UK repeatedly. And the cost was never just the repair bill. It was the crop that sat in worsening conditions while a machine waited for a software handshake that should never have been locked in the first place. Now, here is a number. John Deere CEO John May received total compensation of $27.8 million in 2024. That figure comes directly from the proxy statement filed with the SEC. I am not presenting that number to manufacture outrage. I am presenting it because farmers do a particular kind of arithmetic that boardrooms rarely account for. In 2023, John Deere posted net income of just over $10 billion. That same year, the company spent $7.2 billion buying its own stock. Over the past 2 decades, the total spent on stock buybacks and dividends reached $43.6 billion. These are not contested figures. The UAW confirmed them. SEC filings confirmed them. In that same period, through 2024, John Deere cut over 1,500 American jobs from plants in Iowa and Illinois. Towns built around those factories, families with 2 and 3 generations on those lines. The company described it as controlling costs amid reduced demand. The workers who built the machines that generated $10 billion in profit the previous year heard that explanation and understood exactly what it meant.
The farmers buying the equipment funded a meaningful portion of that profitability. Every financing contract, every parts order, every premium paid on a new machine. That money moved through John Deere's books, and a significant portion of it went to shareholders, not back into the relationship with the customer. On January 8, 2023, John Deere and the American Farm Bureau Federation signed a Memorandum of Understanding. It was announced at the Farm Bureau's annual convention in Puerto Rico. The language was measured, the handshakes were firm. A lot of people in agriculture called it progress. And honestly, it was something. The MOU committed John Deere to giving farmers and independent repair facilities access to diagnostic codes, repair manuals, product guides, and certain diagnostic tools. It created a process for farmers to raise concerns directly. It required John Deere to sit down with the Farm Bureau at least twice a year to review whether the agreement was actually working. For farmers who had been locked out of their own machines for years, that was not nothing. But here is what the agreement actually is. It is not a legally enforceable contract. John Deere can withdraw from it with 15 days written notice if any state or federal legislation is passed that goes beyond what the MOU covers. And in exchange for signing, the Farm Bureau agreed to discourage its member organizations from supporting right-to-repair legislation at the state and federal level. So, the largest farm lobby in the country agreed to stand down on legislation that would have given farmers enforceable legal rights in exchange for a voluntary agreement that no court can enforce. Whether that trade was worth making is something farmers are still deciding. The honest answer is that some steps have been taken. John Deere deserves credit for engaging at all when they could have continued stonewalling. But credit for engaging is not the same as the problem being solved. The farmers watching this right now are the only real measure of whether the gap between what was promised and what they experience every day has actually closed. There is a pattern here that is worth naming carefully. Boeing was once the definition of American engineering excellence. Aircraft so reliable that airlines built their entire reputations around operating them. Then the priority shifted. The focus moved away from engineering and toward financial performance. People inside the company who raised concerns found themselves sidelined. The consequences of that drift became impossible to ignore. I am not saying John Deere is Boeing. That comparison has limits, and I am not going to push past them. What I am saying is that the pattern of a company moving away from the craft and the customer toward the shareholder is not unique to one industry. It is recognizable. And when the same signs appear in the same sequence, it is worth saying plainly what you are looking at. Farmers arrived at their own conclusions through different routes. A farmer in Illinois watched his local dealership's used John Deere lot fill up over 2 or 3 seasons, not with trade-ins from people upgrading, with machines from farmers who did the math and decided the relationship no longer added up. He did not read about it, he watched it happen across the fence from his own operation. A farmer in Pennsylvania will tell you the exact moment his thinking changed. A repair bill, wrong time, wrong amount. A fix that should have been simple and was not because of the parts and software dependency built into the machine he had paid full price for. He does not talk about it with bitterness. He talks about it with the flat clarity of a man who has already decided and moved on.
And then there is the one that stays with me. A farmer who looked up and said, "I did not leave John Deere. John Deere left me." 7 words. That is the whole conversation in 7 words. Not a dissatisfied customer, a generational loyalist who felt the company withdraw from the relationship long before he did. That distinction matters more than any earnings report or policy document. Because what John Deere built over more than 150 years was not market share, it was belonging. Farmers did not just purchase the equipment, they joined something. My grandfather felt that. Millions of farming families across the US and UK felt that. And that kind of loyalty, the kind that survives bad harvests and tight margins and decades of hard decisions, cannot be recovered with a press release. It is recovered the same way it was built, one season at a time. By making the right call when the easier call is the profitable one. By treating the farmer as the point of the whole enterprise rather than the revenue source that funds the shareholder returns. John Deere still has the opportunity to do that. The brand still carries weight that most companies would spend decades trying to build. The trust is damaged, but it is not gone. There are farmers right now who still want to believe in that green paint, who still want the relationship their fathers had with this company. The question is whether John Deere wants it back badly enough to earn it. Because farmers are patient people, they understand that real things take time. But they also know the difference between a company that is changing and a company that is managing the appearance of changing. They have seen both. They know which one feels like what. My grandfather said, green means somebody thought about the man doing the work before they thought about anything else. That is still the only test that matters. If you want honest conversations about the industry and the equipment decisions that actually affect your operation, stay around. There is more here worth your time.